Alright, you guys, this video is going to be the basics on getting started in simulator battles. Um, this is just a test flight I'm in right now. I'm in the OP shooter, and as you can see, simulator battles, you're stuck in cockpit view. And the other thing you'll notice is that our engine is not running. We're sitting on the airfield. In realistic battles, your engine will be running. So, the first thing you have to do is start your engine. It's pretty tough. It's either the I key or whatever key you have hotkeyed your control setting to. All right, now that our engine's started, we're just at idle power. And one thing that I want to talk about is torque of your engine and how to counteract it. In test flight, one um, it's called, well, I guess the easiest way to counteract engine torque is with trim. I'll start there before I go on to what I was going to say. And in test flight, you can trim every control surface on the plane. So, in regular games, you're not going to be able to control, or you're not going to be able to trim all of the surfaces, but in test flight, you can. So, for example, the BF 109 G2, you can only trim the elevator. You can't trim the rudder or the ailerons. Um, and so what trim is say, okay, this plane, we're going to say, I haven't taken it off yet, but we're going to say it's really nose heavy. So it's going to want to nose down all of the time. So I'm going to have to keep back pressure on my elevator to keep the nose up. So if I don't trim it at all, I constantly have to be pulling back on the stick to keep my nose up. And what trim does is it locks a position um, of the flap of the control surface, so that when you let go of the stick, the flap stops. So if I trim it, so trim to 100%, you'll see the flap is trimmed to 100%. In my stick, I am not on my joystick at all. I can move it down to minus 100% still, but when I let go, it goes to 100%. So what that's going to do is keep me in a nose up attitude if the plane is nose heavy. I'm exaggerating with 100%. You're probably only going to need anywhere from 10 to 20 probably percent. So we'll actually put it at 0. And so before you take off, you have to always be expecting the plane to be nose heavy. But you do not want to be pulling back on the stick at all. But if the nose starts to go down, you want to start applying pressure back on the stick. And it can happen pretty quick, but it can happen really quick in some planes. But all you have to do is just start gradually applying pressure and try to keep the nose pointed at the end of the runway until you gain enough speed to pull back and lift off. And so when we get into the throttle here, we're going to be applying a lot of torque to our propeller. And what that's going to do is shove our plane. In this plane, since it has a clockwise rotating prop, our torque is going to shove us that way and down. It's going to want to twist the aircraft to the left and down. And you counteract this with rudder. And so since I know that this plane in particular is going to torque me to the left, I'm going to rudder to the right. And the other thing when you're beginning is you'll start moving at roughly 30% throttle, and you're not going to have a lot of torque here. You'll have some, but not a lot. So if we just put it to 30% throttle, we'll start rolling. And once you start rolling, just start easing into the throttle more. You can get it about, get rolling pretty good, and then really just hammer into it 100%. And I've got right rudder now, and I can feel it trying to roll, so I'm applying right rudder, keeping my nose up. This thing doesn't have a nose down attitude as hard as I thought it was going to be. And once you hit the end, I usually go for the end of the runway. That way I know I have enough speed, and then you just pull up. You hardly have to pull up, and it's going to lift off. And so it actually does have a nose down attitude when I'm in level flight. I'll fly it level and let go of the stick to show you guys what the torque does of the engine. Alright, so we're flying level now. And so when I let go of the stick, it's going to, it has a nose down rolling attitude. See that? And so what we're gonna do is fly it straight and level, so I'm counteracting now. And then we're going to trim it. So with whatever key you have hotkeyed for your trim. Alright, so I'm going to trim it now. And so now I'm at a 3% aileron trim and a -3% elevator. And I still have a climbing attitude now that I gained speed. So it actually has a nose up attitude. So we'll go to -4. And so now when I let go of the stick, I'm flying straight and level. I actually have a right-hand torque because I'm gaining enough speed where my ailerons need to be trimmed back, so I'll go to -2. And so now I can let go of the stick, my hand's off the stick, and I'm flying straight and level. And what this does is when you're at like I'm at cruising speed right now, 100% flying straight and level, I'm not constantly fighting my torque of the engine, and so my arm doesn't get tired on the joystick. That's really all that trim is for. Is so that your plane flies straight and level on its own, or you can trim it for a climbing attitude. A +2 elevator is going to put you in a nice gradual climb. Again, I'm not holding onto the stick at all, and I'm just going to climb. It had your arc of your climb is going to get steeper and steeper because the control surface isn't changing. But your speed will drop, and then your nose will drop, and then you'll gain speed, and it'll nose up again, and it'll just stay climbing. I prefer to have a slight nose down attitude in my flight, so that I do have to apply some stick pressure back, but not a lot to be aggravating. So we'll go back to -2, and it's fairly straight and level. So that's trim. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about in this video is cornering speed. And what that is the slowest speed you can go in a corner before your wing stalls out. And so whatever way you're turning, the wing that's pointing upward is going to stall first. So if I start a turn, the tighter I make the turn, my speed's dropping. I don't know what the cornering speed of this aircraft is. And this is what test flight is for, to figure this stuff out. So keep pulling tighter, keep dropping speed. Looks like it's going to be around 180. No, it's slower than 180. No, it will be like 180. Why my inside wing is dropping too? That's all engine torque. It's forcing the inside wing to drop. So we'll try it going the other way. If the inside wing drops, it's going to probably disappoint. No, they're the outside. Yeah, so the engine, this engine or this plane has quite a bit of engine torque at low speed, to make it so that I drop. The left wing is always going to stall first, the way it looks at cornering speed, which is around 200. Yep. So in the Pea Shooter, this model particular, the left wing is always going to stall first. So I even learned that. That's nice to know. Normally, it's going to be the upper wing will stall first in your turn. But engine torque applies, so that's why I pointed that out. Um, and the other thing that you can do advanced maneuvers with stalls, or with stalling being enabled, I guess, because instructor and realistic battles, it limits stalling. So you can do advanced maneuvers like a snap roll. If I can do it. There we go. Kind of slow. It's because I'm in a slow plane. And you can do hammerheads, you can do stall reversals. There's a lot of maneuvers that you can do involving stalling. And I mean, there's time to use them, and we'll get into that in later videos. This is just the basics. So once you're airborne, you don't have to worry about, I mean, if you're just starting simulator battles, you don't have to worry about gear because you better be in a biplane. I want to see you guys in biplanes first because that's where you're going to learn the fastest and the least expensive. No repair cost. All you can do is make money. Pretty awesome. And so where you're going to want to start is attacking ground targets. Stationary to start. And so go, hit your ground target, and when you pass your ground target, watch your 6. Don't just check it. This is where you're going to want to be looking in your climb back up. And the reason is I'm losing airspeed fast trying to get back to altitude. And you never want to pull straight after hitting ground target. You never want to pull straight up enough to that you stall. You always just want to keep a gradual speed decrease so that you're still fast, but you're not stalling, if that makes sense. And just watch behind you when you're climbing away from any ground target, because that is when you're going to get attacked by the enemy. It's when you're climbing away and when you're nice and slow in an easy target that can't maneuver fast enough to get out of the way of the bullets. So, and that's when you should be attacking somebody, is when you see them attacking a player, or after you see them attack a player or a ground target. You want to be hitting them when they're slow and unmaneuverable and can't dodge your bullets. So staying out of that slow, unmaneuverable state is really something it takes time to learn, because you can stall. You can get slow enough that if you pull back as hard as you can on the stick, you'll spin like so. And the stalling characteristics of these biplanes, it's there, but it's very gentle and easily recovered when you're undamaged. If you're damaged, it's going to be harder to recover. But basically, just get out there and start hitting ground targets, start making money, gaining that experience, learning how the planes fly. And once you're able to hit stationary ground targets, practice on moving targets. I mean, you can do this in a couple of matches and start to be pretty good at it. Moving targets are a lot harder to hit, as you can see, so it does take time, and you just can't give up, because once you're able to hit moving targets, that's when you're going to be moving targets on the ground. You're going to be able to hit moving targets in the air, because you have to lead these guys to get your bullets. You actually have to put a little bit of lead on them to get your bullets to contact them. So, I mean, say he's going 50 kilometers an hour. You're obviously going to need more lead for something that's going 300 kilometers an hour as a plane. But it's just the baby steps just to get up there and get your lead nice and ahead of him. And the angle of your attack obviously differs greatly on your lead. So he's going to be driving perpendicular to this attack. And he's going to be a lot harder to hit. My shooting window is not going to be as long from hitting him behind. I'm actually hitting him from his front quarter, so. And I did all of that just with rudder. I mean, I leaned into it kind of. You can see me leaning, but I'm mainly just ruddering around. And rudder authority differs on planes too. But that all just takes, that's all this time and learning. So once you're able to hit moving targets, on the ground, then you can start going for the bots in the air. I mean, if you like think it's a stupid idea, go for the bots in the air, but you're not going to learn nearly as fast as if you just take those steps. And in 2 games, and you'll be good enough to, I mean, 2 games that you survive all the way through, I should say. You should be good enough to start hitting some AI. But, you know, destroying ground targets wins games, so it's never bad to just hit ground all game long and then wait for somebody to come and attack you. And then outfly them and kill them. That's what's fun about simulator battles, is that you can do that kind of stuff. So that's the basics of starting simulator battles. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not going to do a landing tutorial because landing is pretty straightforward. If you're damaged, it's really hard to land. So that's a challenge you're going to have to learn. You are going to want to make sure your landing is at a decent speed, that you don't smoke the tree that's right ahead of me, like I'm almost going to do. But you gotta love the biplanes where you don't have any gear, any flaps, nothing to worry about. Just simple learning the basics of maneuvering the aircraft that can stall and that does not have an instructor. So get out there, start learning sim battles. We need more people. And it's not hard once you get used to it. It just takes time and practice. So that's the basics of starting sim battles, and we will see you in the skies. Thanks, guys.